the small grays. The small grays are not really, the big grays are, remember I told you there's a difference between aliens and terrestrials. The tall grays are from a different solar system. They are not from here. Okay. They are extraterrestrial, which means they are not from our Earth. Okay. The small grays are aliens. They're just different from us, but they are from here because they are their worker bees. And as I told you before, this is what all these abductions is about. They produce the small grays. They take our eggs and our sperm and they put it together and they mix it up and do this and that. But they're just worker bees. And just like worker bees cannot produce offspring. The small grays are just workers. They're kind of disposable. And that's the reason when the craft crashes or whatever, it's not a thing of leaving no man behind. It's just a worker bee. And if your worker bee, it's like on Star Wars. If a clone get left behind, well, it's just a clone. You're not gonna go and risk 300 clones trying to save one clone. It's just a clone, right? Okay, and that's what the small grays are. They're just worker bees. So they're missing parts. And that's what, if you read about the alien autopsy videos about and whatever, they're missing things. They don't have a reproductive system, and they don't have this, and they don't have that, because they're just a worker bee. They're just a bee. Okay. But they're very good at doing their job, and they help, and they work for the tall grays. Okay. So we don't want to go more into that, and that's what you see in the alien autopsy, where they're taking this thing apart, and and some people say that's real or fake, but we know some of this is real because from Roswell, we have different people and different testimonies from people who went to the base and they saw different things. Mm-hmm. Nobody actually put all the pieces together until the book about Roswell didn't come out until the 70s. But at that time, after World War II, everything was secret. People didn't go around talking like they do today because, everything was military. Everything was right after World War II. And people saw weird stuff. But there was people on the base. There was the guy on the base that was told, they called up the funeral home and they wanted all these small caskets. And he was on the base. Mm-hmm. There was one guy who was dating a nurse, and he was on the base, and the nurse told him, you better get out of here. And she looked super sick, and she was coughing up whatever. And when he went to check on her a few days later, it's like she never existed. She was gone. You get what I'm saying? She called over there. They had no trace of her. What? Okay. That happens sometimes. You know what I'm saying? Don't you in the military? Okay. If you see the wrong thing or do the wrong thing, you just never worked at the base. You're just gone. Okay. This is what happened to Bob Lazar. He was working, and the next day, they just didn't have any record of him ever existing anymore. He just, Okay.
Okay, here's a question.
Yeah.
Why can we reproduce even though they made us for mining gold?
Okay. A side point, I'll take this one. Okay, because in the beginning when we was first produced, we could not be reproduced. They had to make us. And if you read the back in the Sumerian tablets, later on when they needed mass workers, they got tired of producing us. So they turned on, remember these life carriers. They have the switches. They can turn things on, turn things off, and voila, they gave us the ability to produce on our own. This is talked about in Sumerian texts thousands of years ago. Okay, is that the gods gave us the ability to produce on our own because I guess they got too tired of producing the next, so they let us do that ourselves. What other question is there real quick?
That's it for now.
Okay, excellent. If you have any other questions, but we're going. So all this stuff was going on, and in the late 40s, this is when the modern UFO phenomena started, after 47. And people, and we're going to take another diversion since we're talking about life after Roswell. Because why did this diversion happen? Why before World War II people didn't see a lot of things? See, there was only two big UFO incidents. There was a lot of UFO sightings right around the turn of the century when people were seeing these flying ships. Mm-hmm. Then you had nothing. And then right after World War II, things went crazy. In the late 40s, early 50s, up into the early 60s, you had sightings all over the world. Okay, they come and go. What was happening around the turn of the century is that this is where a lot of the governments first became aware of these beings. And contact was first made. And they wanted to let us, but the regular public didn't know. Okay, and this was right around the turn of the century. Is when they first wanted us to know that we was not alone. Okay, after World War II, they was monitoring us from the turn of the century up until here, doing their little stuff, and then we did something that scared the hell out of them. We dropped 2 atomic bombs. That scared the hell out of them. Okay. And they came, just like when you shake up a hornet's nest, the hornets come out. And they're like, what in the hell are they doing up there? Because we're supposed to be these dumb, ignorant people killing each other on the surface. They could care less. If they want to kill each other, who cares? Whatever. But when they heard those 2 big kabooms, they're like, hey, those hornets are kind of out of control up there. We need to go and check on them. And that's what started the modern UFO thing. And they've been in our business ever since. Monitoring our military, hanging around our military bases, doing what we want to do. Because if we want to blow ourselves up, that's one thing. But now we're getting to the point of blowing up the planet. And maybe they don't want to blow up the whole planet. Okay, because we share this planet with people other than us. Okay, and they do not want us to go there. They're making sure we're not going there. Okay. So, they've been in our business ever since. And when we quiet down, UFO incident goes down. And when military things start getting very bad, that's the reason during the Cuban Missile Crisis, anytime the world get on the edge of craziness, around 9/11, UFO incident was peaking all over the world. Anytime they think, uh-oh, those hornets are getting bad again, we need to go check on them. Okay. They will start poking their heads up, flying everywhere, doing what they need to do to make sure that we can kill ourselves, but we're not blowing up the planet and we are not going to do certain things. Okay. And when we go back to sleep, they can go back to sleep too. Okay, but we are not alone on this world. We share this world with other beings that are not us. Remember, I told you about this before. We got Asgard, which is the inside of the earth, and Midgard, which is the outside. The Midgard is the outside, Asgard is the inside, or what we refer to of Hollow Earth. And Hollow Earth got a lot of things going on down there, which is not exactly hollow. It's all, we don't really know what's going on down there. Some people say it's totally hollow. Some people say it's giant caverns and giant openings and whatever. Who knows? Okay. They'll make sure we'll never know. Okay. So, back to what we was talking about. So, all this technology, and this is the main reason that we signed to... So, after Roswell, we got some information. We found this wreckage. And then after Roswell, we started signing agreements with these creatures. And there's been several agreements signed. Eisenhower signed agreements with these creatures because we wanted certain technology and we want this and we want that. In exchange for A, we will give you B. And they always want the same thing. In exchange for abducting people, in exchange for running tests on people, in exchange for doing this or that. They never keep their agreements, but they always willing to sign them. Okay. And the problem with alien agreements too, they always say, you're the only one on the planet we will sign this agreement with. Even though the same time they're doing this agreement with the United States, they're signing an identical one with the Russians, the Chinese, the Indians. And the reason they play these games which irritate us because they think that we're so stupid and we're so dumb that we don't know. And we are that stupid and we are that dumb. Okay, so they keep signing these agreements. It's the same. See, as above, as below is what we did to the American Indians. We would sign an agreement, and 5 years later we break it. Okay, we sign a new agreement, and 5 years later we break it. And that's what they're doing to us. They sign agreements with us, and then they break it, and then they play dumb. When we catch them breaking the agreement, they're just shocked. Oh, okay, we'll sign another agreement with you. Okay, it's just a game. Okay, and they have no... So Eisenhower signed agreement with them. You had in Bush administration, we had more agreements. We have bases with them. They give us some of their technology. They give us some of their old craft. And we think this is super hot stuff. Yeah, they give us this craft, which is maybe 800 years old. The warranty's worn out. You get what I'm saying, don't you? It's out of date. Okay, we think it's the hottest thing since sliced bread. Okay, and in exchange for that beat up craft with a damaged propulsion system, everything else, we sign our life away that they can do this, they can do that, they can do everything. Okay, and even though we do that, they still break the agreement 5 years later. Yes.
Okay, Cassandra has a question.
Yes.
Do you know why Arizona is such a hotbed for UFOs?
Well, because to get in and out of a down, remember, they live below our feet. So, the easiest way to get below our feet, since the earth is covered by 70% water, is to go through the water. Unfortunately, the water is not everywhere. You know what I'm saying, don't you? And if there's no water, then they have to find another way to get down there. They can go through, that's the reason in places where there's deserts and mountains, they have these secret openings in the desert, secret openings in the mountains where they can get downstairs. Okay, because there's no water. Now, if there's bodies of water, like I live near the Gulf of Mexico. People, these shrimp fishermen and whatever, they see strange things at night sometime. These lights come in the water. They see these things going into the water. Yep. Well, it's probably just a big fish. You know what I'm saying, don't you? Okay. Right. You know that.
Okay, Karen.
Yes.
Do these administrations know they're dealing with aliens?
Okay. They know that they're dealing with these... Okay. Again, we have an idea of who we're dealing with, but they won't show their cards. So, they tell us something, but for example, I'll give you an example. The Germans supposedly was dealing with beings from the star system Aldebaran, okay, which is like 57 light years from here. Okay. Now, they was giving them technology. This is where a lot of the Germans was getting their technology from. It's not like the Germans had the technology to go over there and check. Now, they was telling the Germans that on Aldebaran that these people had long blonde hair and they looked at like Aryans and this and that. And near the end of the war, they helped the Germans to send a craft there. And a message was released. It says, no one's human here. Okay. So I guess that means they did not look like us. But the problem is they know that. This is the problem with people doing things online, where you're dating somebody 1,000 miles away and they tell you I weigh 120 pounds and I'm 24 years old and I'm this and that, whatever. And then you meet this person 6 months, a year later and like, you lied. Okay. What you gonna do about it? You already sent them thousands of dollars. You get what I'm saying? As long as you're having a good time, it's all good. Okay. The problem is this game is done at our expense, and we don't complain that much because we're getting some goodies out of it. Okay. They give us a few toys, a few trinkets every now and then when we start complaining too much. Just like when your kid starts crying too much, you buy him a little toy or a little piece of candy and he's happy, he's quiet again. Okay. But we are so far in the hole and they want to keep us that way. Okay. So, next question.
That's it.
Okay.
She just made a comment.
Okay, so But this is what is going on. So let's talk about this thing we got. So what we're trying to do is, because we know, see, this is what we back on this point. So we're talking about some stuff this is how we know if these people are telling the truth or not. Because when these people like Bob Lazar come along and they have these crazy stories about people in S4 doing this stuff, and they got alien. This guy must be smoking that local weed. Okay. But then he tells you something that blows your mind. And this was in the late 70s. And Bob Lazar was talking about gravitational propulsion and all this stuff, and we're working on that, and nobody never heard of gravitational propulsion. And then we started to investigate, and we discovered that the government is actually working on that. And not just now, they've been working on it for 20 years. Okay. And a lot of other things that Bob Lazar mentioned that was really crazy, and people thought this guy is making all this stuff up. When you start investigating it, you say, maybe this guy is not as crazy as we think he is. Okay. But there's no way of proving it. Yes.
So we have a question. Will the aliens ever come out of hiding? If so, do you know when?
Okay. They need to come. This is the reason why I'm here. Because they need to cross us to the other side. The problem is, if they came out today, we would shoot at them. So this is why in the Bible it says, in the end, all things will be revealed. They're trying to, this is what Ancient Alien, this is the worldwide project. They need to catch us up a little bit. Because remember, the Crossing Project, which there's thousands of people working on this project, is to cross us to the other side. What does that mean in English? There's 7 billion people on this planet. We are not worthy of crossing. But they're going to cross us anyway. They're going to try to save 5 billion of the 7 billion on this planet. Now, they can't do that from hiding behind the bushes. They can't. This is why a lot of people that have these dreams talk about that day when they see all these things in the air. Okay, they're going to do our best to try to save our asses. They need to come out of hiding to do that. Okay, and they're doing this not for their own good, because their goal is once they save our ass, not only we're going to be living on the surface, they're going to re-establish their headquarters back on the surface. This is why I'm going to tell you something that no one knows. You all know about that Illuminati pyramid, where you got the pyramid and the top of the pyramid is not connected to the pyramid. The top is not connected because there's separation between man and God. After they save our ass, the top of the pyramid is going to be on the pyramid again. There ain't going to be no separation. Remember, back in the good old days, God and man lived together as one. They're planning on being with us again. Okay. You see what I'm saying? So, this is where they're going to take us. So, this is what you read about in the Bible when they talk about this New Jerusalem is going to be lowered, and it's going to be this city of crystal and everything, and everybody says, oh, this is going to be wonderful. It's going to be different than things are today. We don't know. You will have to see it, but this is what we're praying for, is that they will rule on the earth with us. They are not going to be hiding anymore. They're going to be out there. And this New Jerusalem and these other crystal cities and all this stuff is going to be on the surface of the earth. They will be here. Okay. So.
And so little by little, they're just kind of showing.
Well, it's not little by little. We're running out of time. Okay, because remember, we're heading towards polar shift. Okay, and when our sun explodes and polar shift and the giant earthquake and the tidal waves and everything else, we have to save our asses from that.
Yeah, but what if they started, coming out? Would everybody panic? Do you think
that's the reason why they are letting, and before that day comes, little by little, yes.
Right.
And I'm a part of that project of letting people know, and Ancient Aliens and all these other shows and the Disclosure Project, the Air Force coming out. They're, in the next few years, they're going to be telling us everything. And people are still going to freak out that day when it happens. Okay. But at least they're going to say, hey, we told you. We showed you that movie, remember? That movie, remember? We told you about that. Okay. You see what I'm saying? Everything they're preparing us for. And now we're used to seeing superheroes in the movies. Wait until they're not in the movies anymore. They're preparing us for a lot of things. See, these gods, these beings have power. Now we see these people in the movies that have power. But they're only in the movies. Wait until they're not in the movies anymore. Okay. But we're getting prepared for this. Okay. They're preparing us slowly by slowly. Okay. So, but they're going to cross us. We're going to make it across. It's oh my gosh. It's going to be a rush. Let's say that. So, we got all this technology. We got all this stuff. We've been getting stuff from all these aliens. They're telling us about all of this gravitational propulsion, how to travel in outer space. They have helped us with our secret space program. They have helped us in all this stuff. But are they helping us or are they helping themselves? This is the question. Okay. This is what the X-Files was all about. Okay.